Good morning, everyone. I am Delphine Martin, Global Marketing Manager at Climalife. We are delighted to welcome you today to talk about A2L refrigerants. The objective of this webinar is to inform you about this new technology, to see which A2L refrigerants are available on the market to meet the requirement of F-gas regulation. Today, we will focus on refrigerants dedicated to commercial and industrial refrigeration processes. More precisely, we will see how to implement A2L refrigerants in condensing unit. To address these different topics are virtually at my side Régis Leportier, Technical Program Director at Tecumseh Europe. Hello, Régis.
Hello. Hello all.
Jean de Bernardi, Technical Team Lead at Honeywell Refrigerants. Good morning, Jean.
Good morning, everybody.
Pierre-Emmanuel Danet, Technical Support at Climalife. Hello, Pierre-Emmanuel.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for your presence.
Alain Lelièvre-Damit, Purchase and Quota Manager at Climalife. Hi, Alain.
Good morning, Delphine. Good morning, audience.
So let's go. In concrete terms, what is the legal context? What are the next steps to be taken in compliance with F-gas regulation? What does the term A2L mean?
Good morning again. Good morning to our European audience, but also good afternoon and a good evening to the other participants who are coming from all over the world. Thanks for joining this webinar. I want to give you a short overview on the global regulatory context and some further information on the European F-gas and quota legislation. Globally, the reduction of the use of HFCs is driven by legislation. Just 3 examples. In US, EPA prohibited the use of certain HFCs in MEG, in gum-ref, in foam, in aerosol, and in chiller applications, and this by certain dates. South Korea implemented credits for a replacement of HFCs in MEG, and Australia implemented an HFC phase down and a quota system in 2018. Europe has the most overall legislation for the moment. The F-gas regulation for certain applications, the MEG directive with GWP lower than 150 for automotive, and there is also an introduction of taxes, like in Denmark, in Spain, in Norway, in Slovenia, and some countries are considering also to implement taxes, like in France, in Poland, and in Sweden. The F-gas phase down calendar, I think by now, is well known by the whole industry. It started in 2015, and then there was a minor step down in 2016 and 2017. The first important phase down was in 2018, with an important impact on the availability and pricing. I think that everybody in Europe still remembers this one. In 2015, the average GWP of all refrigerants used was 2000. To meet the 2018 phase down, the average GWP needed to go to 1,300, as you can see on the slide. The next step is 2021, with a 55% cut. Further reduction to an average GWP of 900 is needed to meet this step. Also important to notice is that from the 1st of January 2022, a GWP lower than 150 is mandatory in multi-stations centralized commercial refrigeration. From the 1st of January 2020, products with a GWP higher than 2,500 is prohibited in fixed refrigeration systems. And only reclaimed refrigerants with a GWP higher than 2,500 can be used for maintenance.
So let's see what A2L means. On the left side of the screen, you can see a picture that shows the different categories composed of letters and numbers. What does it mean? The letter defines toxicity. The A defines a non-toxic product and the B a toxic product. The numbers define the flammability class. Higher number means a more flammable refrigerant and of course a bigger danger. Now, let's look at the graph on the right side of the screen. You see three classes of flammability. How are they defined? It is very simple. They are defined according to the international standard ISO 870, taken up by the American standard ASHRAE 34, and the European standard EN 378. On the ordinate axis, we have the lower flammable limit, which corresponds to the minimum concentration of flammable refrigerant to be mixed with the air to create a flammable zone. On the abscissa axis, we have the burning velocity, which is the speed at which the flame advances during combustion. You understand that the faster speed of the flame gives a bigger danger. How this category is defined? By the lower flammability limit and by the burning velocity. There is also another criteria, which is the heat of combustion, which is not treated on this graph. The limit between highly flammable class 3 and class 2 and 2L is defined by a concentration in the air. This concentration is more or less than 3.5% of the flammable refrigerant, and the difference between A2 and A2L classes is defined by burning velocity with more or less than 10 centimeters per second. To show you the difference between the refrigerants, we have positioned them according to their class, and apart from ammonia, they are all non-toxic. If we start with the most dangerous category, we look at the bottom of the graph, class 3, where we find propane and isobutane with a very low concentration. A concentration below 50 grams per cubic meters form a high risk of fire and explosions with a flame velocity of more than 45 centimeters per second. Above, we have class 2. On this class, we find R152A, for example, which has a concentration of 130 grams per cubic meters and a flame velocity of 23 centimeters per second, presents a less significant danger than an A3, but still significant. Finally, on the left, the low flammable category 2L, which does not present a no danger, with low flame velocities, less than 10 centimeters per second, and high concentrations that are difficult to reach to create a flammable area. In this category, we find the 1234ZE and YF, which require about 300 grams per cubic meters and have a flame velocity of 0 or less than 1.5 centimeters per second. R32, which has the highest flame velocity of 6.7 centimeters per second, would require the same concentration as 1234ZE. As you know, R32 is used in air conditioning because it has been established that the level of risk is low. Finally, R455A is almost non-flammable and requires a concentration of more than 430 grams per cubic meters, with a flame velocity less than 1 meter per second. It will be almost impossible to burn it. I hope this diagram gives you a good understanding of the difference between the categories and the hazards.
Thank you, Pierre-Emmanuel. So today we have 3 refrigerants for all refrigeration processes, and Jean de Bernardi will explain you.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, today we will mainly focus on these 3 HFO blends, and I take this opportunity to show you the operating envelopes of these new fluids, especially in refrigeration, where you can see we could address any of the applications we are used to today, which are covered normally with 404A essentially. So with 455A, we can go down to -50, -52, so we can really go low temperature. So covering most of the application you see in the dark blue rectangles. Interesting to see as well are the high condensing temperature we can achieve with this kind of products, which has not been seen in the market to date, because we could eventually, with daily boiled water, we could really go high. And this has, and you will see just after, an impact on the efficiency at high ambience as well. So quite significant progresses in terms of the applications we can reach out and get efficient. Some more details on these refrigerants. The first one we'll focus on is a blend of 3 components. You can read out the proportions. It's 455A, commercial name for us, L40X. It has a GWP below 150, which is really the magic number of all the regulation. It's an A2L, it has been said, can cover any applications. Very interesting is the higher efficiency than 404A. This is a very important point because we often have the question of sustainability of refrigerants in general because people saw proliferation. And now we can really focalize on the efficiency as being the real last attribute of sustainability because GWP, ODP is a done deal. And now better efficient should be the only way to go forward, and this is the need of humanity. Critical temperature, I mentioned it again. It's important because it is around 14 Celsius above 404A, which means that in the same kind of applications, this type of refrigerant will perform much better with warm summer days or high ambience. So this is, again, a novelty there. YF in the middle is pure molecule, GWP below 1, so ultra-low GWP, specifically replacing 134A, so dedicated to refrigeration medium temp. Critical temperature is quite high, I already mentioned, so it could really be, again, super efficient in high ambient. And the last one is 1234ZE. Again, a pure molecule, widely adopted for chillers globally. And we can see it penetrating a lot in medium temp industrial refrigeration with a COP, again, very, very interestingly, 5% higher than 134A. So quite efficient molecules globally. Now, after going through these details, you have a summary on the left of the three products, incumbent refrigerant that we replace for 4A, 134A. And I try to explain the reason why we are now focusing on this one. The number one, you can see the number, the circle number, is the LFL. Like Pierre-Emmanuel mentioned, the lower flammability limit is the minimum quantity of refrigerant you need to have mixed with air to be eventually able to flame the mixture. So here you can see that 455A has the highest LFL of the category of the next best alternative. I would say you can see the four ones on the chart. We cannot make a generality on the charges, but I give you some examples. In public area, typically supermarket, in direct expansion, we could per circuit, depending on the configuration of the system, go up to more than 80 kilo per circuit. On self-contained units, we could go eventually to more than 16 kilo per circuit. So it gives a very high charges we can use, and we have no limitation to the applications to date. Number two is the flammability range. So the meaning of this one is when you could eventually start a flame, how long will this flame remain? Because again, on the examples of 455A, you can see a flammability range of, this is actually 1%. We could add some scales on the left. This is 1%. So it means that if we are in a situation where we can create a flame, the flame will burn air to survive, okay? And then it will take you out of the flammability range. So this is the definition of a self-extinguishing refrigerant. On these two criteria, YF, 1234YF, is the second best of the category. So it makes a lot of sense that we chose this one. ZE is not appearing there because ZE is the only A2L which has no LFL at 20C or 21C, where it is normally used in the standards to categorize the LFL. So ZE cannot burn below 30C of ambience. So that's why, and you see it in the chart as well in terms of the pressure equipment directive is categorized as group 2 as non-hazardous. So ZE is a very particular one, very handy for the chillers and so where you have pressure vessels. Last point, number 3, is the minimum ignition energy, because once we have the LFL, once we have understood the flammability range, we need to understand what energy we need to flame a substance in the right stoichiometry with air. So 455A, you need 317 millijoule to flame it if you have in the right composition. And I just mentioned what is the need to do that. We need a lighter minimum because the energy of a lighter is 1 joule. And in our environment, even a big arc, you could have a lot of difficulties to reach this kind of thing. So most of the time, it could eventually happen with a lighter. On YF, you need 5 lighters eventually to flame a stoichiometry which is flammable. And compared to that, you can see that propane, you can see these 2 tumbles with the electrostatic arc, needs quite nothing to flame. I mean, a very, very low energy like 0.25 millijoule will be enough to flame it. So our choice has been driven by highest charges, lowest flammability ranges, and lowest flammability risk. These are the takeaways. Now, a few words on refrigeration efficiencies, cooling capacity, and COP. These are results tested in the compressor of Tecumseh that you will hear about just after. So on this chart, we can see the COP on the y-axis and the cooling capacity on the x-axis, and this is compared to 452A, 404A, which are the reference of the business today, and this is the blue circle in the middle, 00. So you can see the blue stars are the tests in this kind of compressor from Tecumseh. You can see that from the COP standpoint, and it confirms what I said before, we are, depending on the left, we are in medium temp, we are close to 7% better COP than 404A. And on the right, in low temp, we are close to 5% better. So these are really better efficient products in this kind of platform. So yeah, the takeaway is that we are not giving just a drop-in or the same kind of, we are giving more COP, and the capacity is within the 2% range, which makes it really even not measurable. So we are very close in capacity, but much better in COP. Last point on this choice is just something we need to be clear on the IEC 60335-89. Everybody has heard about that. It's been voted April 1 year ago, where it was accepted to increase the charge of hydrocarbon up to 500 grams and A2L up to 1.2 kilos. I just want to make it clear that you cannot use it today. It's not applicable. It needs 2 additional steps. The first one is to transfer to, in Europe, to EN version, so European version, and this is now planned for June 2022. And then it has to be published in each country, step 3. I took the example of France. It cannot be applied before end of 2022 earliest. So let's make it clear that until then, and this varies a bit per country, you can only use 150 gram max in this kind of application of self-contained units, commercial refrigeration applications. And I just put some photos as well to understand why it took so long to evolve. This is a UL testing done on this kind of applications, where you can see from 150 grams to 200 grams, they made evaporator leakage test and ignition test, and you can by yourself figure out that the risk is not nothing. So I think people are really cautious and it's going very slow. So now with A2L, I hope you understood that the risk is really at the minimum.
A2L refrigerants like 455A, 1234ZE, or 1234YF are available on the market, but where are we in terms of component qualification by manufacturers?
So on the availability of components, we have been working with the main OEMs of all these components for more than 4 years, and you can see the long list which is there, not exhaustive obviously, but to date today, ZE YF has been a long run and a done deal for a few years now. On 455A, we just summarized the main important actors that you may be facing in the market, and just to secure everybody that all the components are ready for A2L implementation. And this is the reason why people like Tecumseh could have developed their full range of condensing units to apply for these applications. But you will see in the case studies at the end of the webinar that even for very large systems, we have all the components ready and we can apply this kind of refrigerants. On the condensing units, I mentioned it, Tecumseh will speak on this. You have a commercial availability really larger and larger now, like Tecumseh, Bitzer, Emerson, so the big names are there. But you have as well some Asiatic actors on the bottom, like Boyard, Area, etc., which are interested as well for the European business and understood that A2L is the way forward. So again, the message is very simple. You can just start now. I mean, this is no rocket science. Light risk and available.
So what are the rules for using A2L refrigerants? Are these rules specific to A2L technology? Which materials, which equipments can be used to comply with the standards and regulation in force? Pierre-Emmanuel, could you explain us how to implement the A2L product?
Yes, of course. Firstly, we are talking about low flammability refrigerants. So do we need ATEX equipment or do we create an ATEX zone with these refrigerants? First of all, what does ATEX mean? It simply means explosive atmosphere. What is ATEX? There are two European directives that define safety elements for equipment indeed to be used in ATEX zones and for workers. It classifies danger zone according to the nature of the fuel. Is it a liquid, solid, gaseous, or gaseous form? And it also classifies the working conditions, temperature within the plant, atmospheric pressure, transport and storage methods for product at risk. We have three zones. Zone 0, presence of explosive atmosphere. Zone 1, explosive atmosphere occasionally possible. Zone 2, explosive atmosphere is not likely to occur during normal operation. What are the rules for a condensing unit with a flammable refrigerant? Therefore, it is important to know that the design of the system must not allow the formation of an explosive zone. This is the case, for example, for a condensing unit. You can ask yourself the following questions. Now, if I install my refrigeration system with a flammable refrigerant, can it cause an ATEX zone? It should be noted that the refrigeration system is not the cause of ATEX zones, because the requirements do not depend on the type of refrigerants in the system. On the other hand, the manufacturer of the refrigeration system located in an ATEX zone must ensure ATEX conformity. What do you need and what do you need to know to use A2L refrigerant? First of all, you and your company must have the required skills. And the good news is that you are already qualified. Indeed, A2L refrigerants have thermodynamic characteristics that allow them to be used in systems with a similar design as for HFCs. So there won't be any change, but there are still rules to follow. As I told you, you are already qualified to use A2L refrigerants. So what are these rules you have to respect? Well, as for all refrigerants, 455A, 1234ZE, CO2, ammonia, propane, 44A, etc., you must be competent and you must have competent personnel to implement these refrigerants. Skills can be established according to the standards EN 13313. These standards define the activities related to refrigeration system, as well as the associated competency profiles with procedures for the assessments of persons performing these activities. Therefore, there is no specific change to what already exists and is applied today. There are also product safety standards, more about design. This concerns the manufacturer of the refrigeration system, such as Tecumseh, for example. Another very important regulatory rule is the Pressure Equipment Directive, known as the PED. It concerns all appliances under pressure, from the iron central steam through the pressure cooker to our refrigerating installation. The PED has defined two groups to classify refrigerants. Group 1, which includes refrigerants, explosive, extremely flammable, highly flammable, flammable, and highly toxic, poisonous, or oxidizing. And the Group 2 includes all other refrigerants not included in Group 1. I have just one precision about 1234ZE. This pure HFO is special because it is classified in Group 2 of the PED, the group of non-flammable refrigerants. And to finish on this point, we have standards that set out rules to be followed to reduce the risk. We have EN 378, which aim to reduce the possible danger of refrigeration system and refrigerants for people, property, and the environment, whether in a refrigeration and heat pump. This standard is already applied and remains applicable for all refrigerants that you already use, for some of them as 4Y, etc., etc. Staff qualification, what about it? Person need to be qualified. The technical staff must be familiar with the technique and, of course, the implementation rules. They have to observe EN 378 Part 3 for installation and 378 Part 4 for maintenance. Refrigerants, including A2L, must be handled in order to avoid the risk of an explosive atmosphere forming. Requires knowledge of tools, refrigerants handling, and equipment operation procedure have to be known. They have to know the rules, the safety regulation for maintenance and repairs. For example, it should be noted that it's perfectly possible to make a dudgeon on an A2L system, whereas it is totally forbidden on an A3 system. In terms of safety, it is important to work in well-ventilated areas to avoid purging and to evacuate any leaks or safety degassing to the open air. Regulatory labeling on the installation has to be respected. This additional means, for example, a fixed leak detector, direct or not direct, natural or mechanical ventilations, alarms, isolation valves, or the layout of rooms occupied by people. We also have minimum allowed charge regardless of the volume of the room. For flammable refrigerant of class 2 or 3, the charge is limited at a maximum of 150 grams as for propane, for example, and for A2L refrigerant, it will be more. As for the 455A, with an allowed charge of 2.59 kilograms in the same situation. For example, regarding EN 378, we do not have the same possibility of refrigerant and also not the same charge allowed. It depends on the categories, class and location. You can see in the example that in the warehouse, we do not have restriction of refrigerant choice and no restrictions of charge. The two other examples show some difference for propane, which is not allowed in a no-sealed system, and for all refrigerant, limit of charge change also. So, as with all refrigerants, you must use equipment that is approved for the refrigerant being used. For A2 and A2L only, there is no obligation to use ATEX equipment. On the other hand, it will be mandatory to have ATEX equipment for A2 and A3 refrigerants. Look at A2L refrigerants. It is necessary to have an approved vacuum pump. It is necessary to have an approved recovery machine. Specific recovery cylinders must be used for flammable refrigerants. To be identified, they have a red color. This is the same with virgin refrigerant cylinders. And all these cylinders have valves with a left-hand twill to avoid a mistake. But the hoses and the manifold remain standard. And finally, of course, all sorts of ignitions must be absent during handling. No open flame, no smoking, no welding and coating, no hot surface, no static charge, no mechanical spark, no electrical arc. And after, we can speak about risk assessment. Should the risk assessment be carried out when building a refrigeration system? Yes, but not more and no less than today. You have achieved a large part of this by complying with the standards and regulations mentioned above through the selection of the approved equipment and components necessary for the design of the system. In any case, what is the risk assessment? Depending on whether you are a designer, an installer, an operator, or a maintainer, the criteria to be considered will be more or less numerous. This study is used to identify and rate a potential hazard based on some criteria. Its nature, the dangerous situation, the cause of the dangerous situation, the effect of the dangerous situation, the frequency of the risk, the severity to people, to the property, and to the environment. That gives us an initial danger rating. Consideration will be given to putting in place preventive measures where necessary. This brings us to the final danger rating. On this subject, there are trade unions or professional associations that can provide you with the following information. For the installation of a condensing unit, the design part does not concern for you for example, but concern the manufacturer of the unit such as Tecumseh.
So now we are illustrating the implementation of A2L refrigerants in condensing unit with Tecumseh.
Thank you, Delphine, and good morning to all of you who have joined this webinar. I'm Régis Leportier. I will be very pleased to be one of the panelists for today's session. We will share the results related to the use of A2L refrigerants after heavy research and development. And our focus today will be to cover the practical aspects on how to implement a commercial refrigeration system from 1 to 20 kilowatts. On this slide, we see that a big part of the development have been linked to the conformity of the refrigeration systems, linked to the regulation and standards in place. We have identified with a cross-function competency group of people the critical points for an appropriate transition to the use of mildly flammable refrigerants. And we have grouped them, as you see on the right side, and deep dive into analysis and providing answers. You will find all along this presentation similar pictures on the left, describing very simply a proximity shop, where you have also cold rooms, storage, and the condensing unit, and simple systems of refrigeration. It has been well described by my predecessors on this webinar, but the risk assessment is a critical point for all of us and probably linked to some fears. As you have understood, the risks with A2L are very limited, in fact. To carry a risk analysis, it's simply a combination of the occurrence of the risk and the severity of that risk. Very simply and more simply, the probability of the presence of refrigerant multiplied by a probability of ignition of the component. This is all about risk assessment. And the risk analysis has to be carried out according to the refrigerant charge necessary for proper functioning of the installation, source of potential ignitions installed in the volume considered. In fact, in practice, the respect of the location of the condensing unit, and the respect means the choice of the location, I will come back to this right after, where could be the risk, and the respect of good practice will definitely limit and guarantee the control of the risk of leaks from the refrigeration system. We have added this diagram here, which is a simple diagram to analyze the location of the systems and the characterization of the zone. So as it has been precise already, the design and the installation of the condensing unit in accordance with product standards implies that it does not generate any attack zone. So this is not the source of the risk, at least. And what you have to do along this diagram is to define all the relation of risk point of leaks and estimation of the extent of this leaks area in the presence over the time. So I will leave you the detail for that diagram, which has been also supported by the ASERCOM Association. But in fact, at the end, the compliance with the product standards is definitely minimizing the risk of leaks by confining the fluid or the refrigerant in airtight system. This has been already well described by Pierre-Emmanuel. Location of the condensing unit is not the source of risk. All product and the product we have developed are in conformity with all standards in place in terms of safety, like the EN 60335 and others, of course. And the generic standard EN 378 2016 is defining the use of the flammable fluids and refrigerant without imposing any compliance with an ATEX zone or ATEX directive. As it has been said again and again, the vapor compression system is not the cause of an ATEX zone. In terms of charge limits, which could be also a question mark, we have made practical example. It has been described before that if you follow the EN 378, you have to identify the category of access and the location category of the system. If we take this example of a chilling room, positive temp, either 134A equivalent or 404 equivalent, it's a 170 cubic meter cold room or walk-in cold room The cooling capacity needed for these systems is nearly 9 kilowatts. And the necessary refrigerant charge in the systems, equivalent by refrigerant, is around 6 kilo of refrigerant. As the cold rooms or the walk-in is a control access, is becoming category B. Outdoor condensing unit is classified as a category 2. Then we did the calculation, and for one of these silences unit, for example, to feed this cold room, we see that the limit calculated is far above what we need for running properly the system. So we said, and we have done some more other example, practical example, in most of the case, there are no real load constraints to the use of A2L in concrete cases of application. Nevertheless, if you see the link in between the condensing unit and the evaporator, the evaluation and the calculation of the size of the tubes and pipes is to be very accurate, because there is a significant amount of liquid gas inside the tubings to link those two units. For cold stores operating with a remote units, the refrigerant charge may be increased above the limits of the graph corresponding to the Annex C2. So it's very technical anyway, but moving to that in practical aspects, the paragraph or the Annex C3 of this EN 378 will allow us to run with a more refrigerant charge, specifically for the condensing unit, which are not a pre-charge system. Refrigerant is an A2L refrigerant, so this allows to go further with more charge if needed on the system. Now, if we consider the product itself, which represents a big proportion and probably also a risk for your application and your system, we have redesigned, in fact, this new generation of silences by separating the electrical source of ignition and the refrigerant, all the refrigerant components, to avoid any risk. And in addition to that, to prevent formation of flammable zones, we have a small fan running in the application in the condensing unit at all time. All the components we are using are in conformity with standards, with safety standard, pressure switches, fan speed controller, and so on. And in fact, it's removed from you in terms of design and installation all the risk factor linked to this hermetically sealed system we can consider as a condensing. There is also other regulation in place in Europe, and as you know, no one is allowed to place into the market condensing unit which are not compliant with what we call the Eco-Design Directive, which provide minimum energy efficiency, which is also a very important factor for all of our applications. Of course, we are compliant with that as a key player in the field, and all these silences are compliant and qualified for low GWP since 2017. And the new silences advance also is in conformity with these Eco-Design requirements. In between two generations of units from let's say 5 years ago and now, we have improved by at least 10% the efficiency of all those units. Another important factor is linked to the mixture of those refrigerants, which generate what we call a temperature glide effect, and we need to consider that within the selection of the product. It is something rather new for all of us. And for that, we have to follow some standards like the EN 13-15, which define the appropriate cooling capacity or how to select appropriately the performance of a system in a comparable way. This standard is under amendment to select, taking into consideration all A2L refrigerant and all new mixtures by selecting product in a midpoint rather than dew point. So most of the computer program selection you will get will integrate that factor. And in fact, the average temperature or the mid temperature is reflecting better the behavior of your application. The risk into that selection is to oversize the unit if you don't take into consideration that, but at least as a manufacturer, we will drive you to the right product point selection. Product is designed in accordance for the use of A2L, mildly flammable, limited risk. Nevertheless, it's a new application, new concept. Now, once you go back to a site, okay, you have to still to have some point of vigilance. As we say, the risk is linked to the source of ignition. So once you are locating the units, it has to be as far enough from any risk of electricity, like lightning of the shop. We need to have natural air renewal in enough quantity around the system to prevent any accumulation of fluid in case of leakage. If you install a few units side by side, they have to be positioned with a minimum distance to avoid any recycling and transfer of potential leakage to the other unit. And same if there is any air entrance in the shop or air renewal, it has to be as far as possible for all these kind of aspects. Okay, so it in fact it requires very simple good practice and basic good sense for the location of the unit. To summarize all this, we strongly believe, of course, that direct expansion systems are efficient and sustainable and a good transition for commercial refrigeration up to 20 kilowatts and above. From an implementation point of view, in fact, the F-gas is really the issue that impacts the sector of activity. The HFC phase down mechanism is a main driving measure to keep the CO2 emission reduction target. We are all concerned by this. By lowering the GWP as soon as possible, we will keep the necessary quantity of refrigerants required for proper functioning based on the install based in the field. According to various application segments, you have understood also that there is bans starting to be in place from 2020, next steps in 2022 with a very low GWP, and this will drive the industry to move to lower GWP as soon as possible. Of course, we need to avoid also proliferation of alternatives, and those are defined as a sustainable options. A2L solutions in direct expansion is also a good choice technically, economically, because it's rather simple. And if you look at the total cost of ownership, it is an important factor to be considered. Simple solution for the respect of good practices. It could be the final conclusion. Thermodynamically, characteristics are very similar to HFCs. The assessment of the main risk, flammability, charge limits, temperature glide, ATEX, is mainly managed by the design of the systems, as I described rapidly. The remaining portion of the operator risk analysis is approximately 20%. By the way, most of the manufacturers are providing installation guides, and also trade associations are providing a lot of information, and manufacturers, producers to support the remaining portion of this risk analysis. Components are qualified and have to be qualified and declared in accordance with harmonized standards. It's critical for the new generation of gas. There is no real over-equipment required. And of course, we have to comply with eco-design, minimum efficiency, but also you have to understand that those units are designed for high ambient temperature at all conditions. Product selection, installation and commissioning are as simple as they are today with HFC. Remaining precautions are there in terms of safety, again, through the lifetime of the installation, in terms of commissioning or maintenance operation. But overall, we strongly think that the potential learning curve is fast because A2L are ultimately very close to HFC behavior. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Regis. Many refrigeration plants in Europe are currently using A2L refrigerants today. Here are some case studies to illustrate the different applications.
Yes, that's now a good time to show you that it does exist. I mean, this is not only words. A few examples we picked in a long list is the first one on the left, Tournus Équipement in France. It's a food service equipment company, major in self-service lines, where you can see they sold more than 1,500 installations with 455A to date. And for them, the main point was to be sure there was no risk because they sell to hospitals, to schools, etc. So they don't want any risk. So they performed a full risk analysis with Bureau Veritas and Ineris. Ineris is the consultants who made the ATEX regulation for Europe, so people who knows what they are talking about. And in their applications, they concluded on a no risk at all, impossibility to flame. The one in the middle is System K, a major Polish manufacturer exporting a lot in UK, where they go with 455A up to 3 doors cabinets. What they mentioned as key values for them was the capacity and having less circuit than 290, where they were obliged to do that because of low charges. Now they can go with much less circuit, so better cost because of the high charge that 455A can enable. They measured very low energy consumption and low noise as well. This one I cannot comment more. These are their words. The one on the right is a typical evolution of the small supermarket we are seeing today. Is the water loop condensing unit with self-contained units condensing on the water. Here, this is KMW installing this in a hard discounter of Edeka in Germany, where they really insisted on the safety concern they had with A3, and the fact that this is a long-term future-proof solution. So you can see this is in the self-contained domain. These are very emblematic applications where it is already used. And for the high safety, good performance, and the minimum total cost of ownership. So on the whole life of the installation, it was the safest and best choices. Another aspect we didn't cover because condensing units are out of that. These are the monoblocks for smaller cold room eventually. This one is a case study you will find on our Honeywell Refrigerant website, Europe. This is Zanotti, so Daikin monoblock cooling systems that were qualified with 455A. And again, a complete risk analysis concluded on no way to flame anything. So this is really the minimum risk you can have in the market. Going to larger applications, just to show that we are really covering a large palette of possibilities. You have on the left-hand side the first very large industrial bakery we did with L40X for 455A, where you can see here 16 condensing units outside for low and medium temp. These are Bitzer compressor here. And the total capacity here is more than 300 kilowatts, so quite big. And the full risk assessment had been done by TÜV in Germany, concluded again that putting everything like that was a complete low risk. So you can see we can go to very large applications as well. It's not limited to self-contained. And on the right, just to show some, I mentioned the 1234 ZE, which is much preferred in large application, industrial application. This is one for food storage here, where they decided to ZE over ammonia for several points. The first one was it has the same efficiency, very similar, but quite drastically reduced risks. And this is figured out by no administrative hurdles, with no declaration or whatever. It is easy for technicians because, as Regis mentioned, HFOs are very similar to HFC technology. And very important is the capex compared to ammonia that was 50% lower in this case. So my main message in all this case study is that sustainable cooling is there, and also from the very small systems to industrial applications.
Thank you, Jean. Thank you all for taking part in this webinar. Many of you asked us a question during the subscription. We are going now to deal with some of them, and the others question will be treated after the webinar. So the first question that we received during the registration is what kinds of testing can we expect as OEMs begin to adopt A2L refrigerants?
Delphine, thank you. I will reply to this question. In fact, the IEC standards 60335 series are the standards for products to deal with as an OEM for the concept and for the charge limits. And in fact, also the selection of components suitable for A2L is rather important. Purely in terms of testing, led by the manufacturer and test results, we have done a numbers of those in our lab and at the customer labs, and the performance with A2L are very, again, similar in terms of performance and even better than the previous appliance running with HFC refrigerant.
Thank you, Regis. We just received via the chat tool a question. What effect do they have on discharge temperatures in comparison with HFCs?
Maybe I can take this. Yes, I can take this one.
Okay.
Yeah. It really depends on the compressor technology. On small hermetic piston compressors in low temp, we can see up to 8 Celsius above 448. But it really depends. In rotary compressors, high pressure motor sides, we can see even lower temperature. So, in short, it's a very similar discharge temperature to 448. But I want to make very clear here that this kind of question was coming in the past from people who wanted to perform retrofits. So we saw this kind of question in the 407A, 407F, 407H, 448, 449 retrofits, 452A. But in this case, A2Ls and 455A, YF, or ZE are not refrigerant for retrofit. They are refrigerant for new build. So this question of discharge temperature is really more for the OEM when they design, when they set up the systems. And normally, this is not something which should happen at the end user stage. So it's a good question. I think I answered, but it's a no concern because it is implying the design of the OEMs.
Okay, thank you, Jean. Another question, it's about risk assessment guidance. Pierre-Emmanuel, Regis, could you answer?
Yes, maybe Regis can start to answer if you want.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Pierre-Emmanuel. Risk assessment is really the question at that time, at that moment. Again, it is well described in the EN 378 2016 version, which includes all the flammable and mildly flammable refrigerants. We have given today a simple description and understanding of this EN 378. Again, the risk assessment depends mainly, in fact, on the site where the refrigerant system is applied. And we can support designer or the contractor to lead and to make this risk assessment. More and more also, we found that trade unions by country in France, UK, and others, and associations have developed also tools to support the risk assessment process, which can be useful.
Yes, and to complete what Regis explained, you understood that the risk analysis is not new and that it already exists for A1 refrigerants. So in any case, with an A2L refrigerant, it will be possible to reach sufficient charge for the refrigeration system concerned. So there is no difficulty today to use the A2L refrigerants for our applications. Just
to conclude, with 3 refrigerants with a GWP below 150, 455A, 1234ZE, and 1234YF, you can cover a large majority of processes in commercial and industrial refrigeration by meeting F-gas requirement. So don't wait any longer. You have the solution to support your customer. The components are approved. And as you have seen in this presentation, you can implement it very simple, and it's easy to maintain installation as you did before with HFCs. These fluids have the advantage of having a low environmental impact and better efficiency. So let's go. Thank you very much for your participation and attention. You will soon find this support on our Climalife YouTube channel and on our website. So bye-bye, have a nice day. Bye.